G'day poker people, this is the biggest cash game win of my entire life. Make sure you stick around to the end of the video to see exactly how much I won after this insane 5, 10, 20 heater. We've got numerous pots worth over $5,000 in this 5, 10 game at the One-Eyed Jacks in Sarasota. So much action, so let's get to gambling and let's go. So we are in these 5-10 streets for 2,000 bangers, had to play about 4 hours of 2-5 before a seat opened up, but now we're in the big game, baby, and we start things off with a huge shout out to Dolly Parton because we've got 9-5 of clubs in the low jack. I raise it up to 40 bangers and then I get 3 different callers. Just punishment for opening this hand in the low jack. Whatever the case, we are 4 ways to a flop of 9-7-4 with 2 clubs, so I will take that flop with this trash hand, thank you very much. When the big blind checks it over to me, we have a hand with so much equity, there's so much incentive to bet, so I decide to capitalize on that and I c-bet for 50, but then an aggressive hijack raises to 200. When the action folds back to me, I think we're either way ahead with our top pair or we're way behind a hand like 2 pair or a set, but at least we have equity against that range with our pair and flush draw, so I throw in the call and we're heads up to a turn, which is the Queen of Clubs, baby. Let's go. We hit the flush on the turn. Still going to check it over in flow to the villain, who checks back, so we're feeling very confident about the strength of our hand. So when the river's a 10 of spades, definitely want to go ahead and bet for value ourselves. I also want to bet the maximum size. I think a hand like ace-9 might call. I decide that size will be about 200 bangers, but then something I didn't expect at all happened. The villain raises to 600. A little bit concerning here, it's now looking like maybe the villain did trap with the nuts on the turn, but it's also somewhat possible, because I did use a smaller bet size on the river, that the villain is just tacking that and turning their 9x into a bluff. So I don't think I can be folding here, and I ultimately do throw in the call, and then villain shows the ace-10 of clubs. So we are getting cooled flush over flush on the first hand of the session. Boy, I hope things turn around from here. So already we're going to have to top up our stack, and it's just in time for a pot limit Omaha double board bomb pot. Love these bloody things. As you can see there, we have top pair on the first board, but we have a massive combo draw on the second board. So when the action checks to me, I think this is a great spot to narrow down the field a bit with a bet. So I pot it to 180, and then I get 3 different callers. So I guess we narrow down the field just a little bit. Whatever the case though, we're off to 2 different turns. The first one's the 3 of diamonds. The second one's the Queen of diamonds. Let's go. We turn the nuts on the second board. So when the action checks to me again, definitely want to go ahead and pot it. If we can get any folds from hands that beat us first board, it's going to be pretty happy here. So I go ahead and make it 900 bangers to go. And then the same aggressive villain from the previous hand shoves all in for 6,000 bangers. And then fortunately the action folds back round to me and I'm playing significantly less. I've got 2,400-ish left in my stack, and I really don't think we can fold at this point. We are going to be, because we have a 9 on the first board, it's actually not totally impossible. We are 3-quartering the opponent, since a lot of their shoving range is going to include jack 10s. Also, pretty likely we do get 3-quartered often, but for this price, I really don't think we can be folding out our equity. So I do decide to throw in the call, and we are playing a $5,600 pot. We're off to 2 different rivers, and the first one's a 9 of spades, which you'll love to see, because now we're going to suck out on the opponent if they had 2 pairs plus jack 10, and then the second river is the 4 of diamonds. Nothing changes there, and the villain shows 8-8-5-4. So we actually scooped that hand. They were playing a set on the same board. We had the nuts on as well as a draw on the other board, but it doesn't matter because we are scooping this over $5,000 pot. Let's go. And you best believe the heater does not stop there. We actually end up winning a few 3-bet pots, as well as chopping another PLO double board bomb pot with a little bit of overlay in it to run up a pretty nice stack early on. And it was definitely worth the wait to get in this 5-10 game. For this next hand, we have a cheeky little button straddle on. You'll have to see a bit of 5, 10, 20, and then an aggressive small blind opens it to 80. The low jack calls, and then I'm in the cutoff with ace king offsuit. Let's go, another premium. I 3-bet it up to 325, and then both of the other villains call. So we're 3 ways to a flop that is 10, 10, 10. I'm not even joking. So when the action checks to me, pretty happy to take a free turn with this one. I check it, and then we get a free turn, which is the king of diamonds. You love to see it. When the action checks to me, I'm going to go ahead and bet my full house for value here. Don't want to use a large size or anything, just because I think it's pretty face up that we're going to have a lot of kings in this situation. So I go ahead and make it 200 bangers, and then the small blind calls and the other player folds. So we're heads up to a river, which is the 8 of clubs. When the villain checks it over to me again, same logic that applies on the turn also applies here. I really can't bet that big just because it's going to be so face up. I have a king, and if we want my villain to hero call with like pocket 9s, we just need to give them a good price. So I think this is a good spot to bet my lucky number. I blaze it up to 420, and then the villain looks absolutely pained. He's in the tank about 60 seconds before throwing in the call. You love to see it. I show my hand, he marks, and we're raking in this 2k pot. You love to see it.
Thank you, game.
The $20 straddle is on under the gun again. Yeah, I love to see it. And then the first play to axe limps, and I'm on the button with Jack 8 of diamonds. Definitely strong enough to raise in position here. I make it 100 bangers to go, and then only the limper calls. So it heads up to a flop of ace 10, 7 with 2 diamonds. Very happy to see that. When the under the gun checks it over to me, I start to bet here. I make it 100 bangers to go, and then the villain raises to 300. Now, it is a little bit tempting to throw in the 3-bet here. I think my villain is going to be check raising with a lot of ace-x combinations to see where they're at, and once I 3-bet them, they're going to see where they're at and fold essentially, but not totally impossible. The villain just does have 2 pair or a set. Because it's an ace-high board, I actually think they have a lot of 2 pairs here, so I ultimately just decide to throw in the call, particularly being in position, see what happens, and then we get a free turn, which is the 9 of clubs. Let's go! We turn the nuts, and it's kind of an inconspicuous one on this turn in particular. When the villain checks it over to me, I think this is one of those spots where I absolutely want to go ahead and bomb it. I think if the villain has any hand that's 2 pair plus, they're just absolutely not folding to any size. And I mean, sure, I could down bet a little bit and then maybe like an ace with a weak kicker or call, but I think it's just better to go for glory and try to win the maximum. So I go ahead and overbet the pot to 1,500, and the villain absolutely hates this. He's in the tank a good 90 seconds or so. I think when the tank's this extended, it's very likely he's going to fold, and then eventually he does show ace queen as he folds. So that's one of those hands where I probably could have got a little more value from it, specifically if I did bet smaller. I think a down bet might be leaving money on the table in the long run, and whatever the case, I'm raking in yet another pot worth over 2,000 bangers. Let's bloody go. The $20 straddle is back on under the gun, and there's 3 open limps before the action folds to my cutoff with pocket kings, baby, another premium. I raise it up to 150, and then an aggressive big blind 3 bets to 450. And what's even more interesting, one of the limpers cold calls the 450. So with the 2 players still in the mix, there's nothing to do here but 4-bet. A little bit of a concern, either of the villains could have aces, but I think we're just going to make so much more EV by 4-betting, and if they have it, they have it. I raise it up to 1,200, and then the 3-better folds, but the limper actually calls again. It's a little bit concerned they have aces, and we're off to a flop, which is 9-8 ace. So yeah, really don't like seeing the ace on the board when we do have kings, but it makes it a lot less likely the villain does have pocket aces now. So it's kind of like I'm torn in 2 ways about how I feel about this hand. Whatever the case, when they check it over to me, if we're going to get any value from a worse hand on this board, I think it's going to be now. If we bet small here, I think like pocket jacks, pocket 10s will probably call at least once. So I decide to size it to my lucky number. I blaze it up to 420, and then the villain throws in the call. So we're off to a turn, which is the king of spades. Oh my god, I hope the villain has an ace now. Let's bloody go. When they check it over to me, I actually decide to check back here. I really think if the villain has a hand that's ace-x or stronger, they're just going to rip it into me on the river. So by checking here, we're just free rolling them, bluffing their stack off. So I check it. On the river, it's the 8 of hearts, so we make a full house. Unfortunately, the villain does check it over to me, and the villain has a little bit under 1.5k effective. So we have one move left, baby. I'm all in, and then the villain snap folds. So it really does feel like we made the most value from a hand like pocket queens or something. So I'm not going to be complaining as I'm raking in my second pot worth over $5,000 for the session. Let's go.
Rewind that.
Mr. Nosy over here.
I want to see it rewind. Make sure he didn't fold the nuts.
Hey, I went all in that time. I went all in with the nuts.
What a start to the session. We already have over 9,000 bangers in our stack, and we've got the button straddle on for this next hand, a big blind open limps, and then I'm in the low jack with king queen offsuit. I raise it up to 100, and then they throw in the call. So we're heads up to a flop of king 8-6, a rainbow. Love hidden top pair when they check it over to me. Good spot for a value bet, in my opinion. I go ahead and make it 75 bangers, and they throw in the call. So we're heads up to a turn, which is the 4 of hearts, putting out backdoor hearts. When the villain checks it over to me, I think we can get 3 streets of value with this hand. I decide to bet 200 here. Not totally in love with this sizing. I actually think I can go a lot larger with my sizing and just make more money essentially. So I made it 200, and then they throw in the call. So it heads up to a river, which is the 10 of diamonds. A little bit concerned the villain could have king 10, but definitely not concerned enough to stop betting. So when they check it over to me, I blaze it up to my lucky number. I bet 420 bangers, and then the villain throws in the snap call. A little bit worried about the snap call, but when I do show my hand, they end up mucking, and we're raking in yet another pot today. You'll love to see it. Okay, this next one's a really fun one. I'm really curious to hear you guys' thoughts on it. So a tight aggressive low jack opens at 440, then an aggressive small blind calls, and I'm in the big blind with king queen offsuit. Definitely going to be playing this hand, but I think when a tight aggressive player opens 4x for a middle position, the range is a bit stronger, so I don't really want to inflate the pot too much out of position. So I make the very rare Lee bets cold call. I throw in the call, and then we're 3 ways to a flop of king 7-4 rainbows. Very happy to hit a good top pair here. Still going to check it over to the pre-flop aggressor in flow, and then he goes ahead and bets 50. The small blind calls. Now, when the opponent decides to use this bet size, I'm really not super convinced that they do have a strong hand. I mean, sure, they could bet ace, king, or aces to this size, but I think it's a lot more likely they're stabbing with a bunch of bullshit. So I think this is actually a great spot to check raise for pure value here. I raise it up to 175. Unsurprisingly, the pre-flop aggressor folds, but then the small blind puts in the back raise 3 bet. They go ahead and make it 650 here off of a roughly 2k stack, and I am absolutely dumbfounded. I never expected the villain to do this. I think it's very likely that if they did have a set, they would take this line. You know, they don't want to scare off the pre-flop aggressor. They want me to act behind, so I'm worried about sets. Wouldn't be totally shocked if the villain had 2 pair with one of the suited combinations of those cards. So ultimately, I decide to make a pretty tight fold here, and then the villain shows 4-2 of hearts. So, oh my god, they have bottom pair and they turned it into a bluff with a back raise. What a brilliant play by villain. I did not see that coming in a million years. And you got me good with this one, mate. I'm not gonna lie. So the button straddles on for this next one, and then the same villain from the previous hand opens it to 40. I'm in the cutoff with the absolutely beautiful ace-4 of clubs. I 3-bet it up to 150, and then the hijack calls. So it heads up to a flop of 955 at rainbow with no clubs. When the villain checks it over to me, I do want to put in a little bit of a stab here for equity denial. I go ahead and make it 125. Not totally in love with this sizing. I think betting something like 100 or smaller is probably better. Whatever the case though, I make it 125, and then the hijack calls. So it heads up to a turn, which is the 10 of clubs. No help to us at all when the villain checks it over to me. I mean, we probably have the best hand with ace high, but I don't think we can get called by worse here in all honesty. So I just check it back, maybe set up a bluff catch on the river, it's depending what the villain does. And then the river is the jack of spades, and the villain goes ahead and bets 450, so they are using a bit of a larger size. Obviously, I have in the back of my head, the villain just bluffed me, so they're definitely capable of bluffing here, but I actually say I lie to him. I really don't think you'd bluff me twice in a row. So I do decide to fold my ace high, and then the villain goes, sure I would, and he shows 7-6 offsuit. So there you go, he did turn his gut shot into a bluff, and awful read by me that he wouldn't try and bluff us twice in a row. He got me again, god damn it. Next hand, the double straddle is on, and then villain goes ahead and raises it to 125, and I peel ace king offsuit. I 3-bet that son of a bitch up to 350, and then when the action's back in the villain, they rip it all in for about 1500. Obviously not going nowhere with this premium. I throw in the call, and then the villain shows ace jack, so we're in great shape, and as you can see on the run out, we bloody hold, and we are raking in this $3,000 pot. It is my day, even if there's one villain that's completely owning us, we're making the money back in other ways.
Yeah.
The worst ace out of 3 of us had ace 9, and I hit the river.
I like my 4-5 of spades. The flop would have got me.
That would have been sick. I called that.
Did you win?
No, but the flop was
Call that
2
all
spades
in?
and a deuce 3.
Oh, okay.
Open on it.
So we have over $11,000 in our stack at this point, and the action does not slow down from here. This next hand is actually one of the most insane hands I've ever played in my life, and it starts off great when the same aggressive villain who keeps bluffing us raises blind 60 under the gun. When I first act with pocket kings, I'm doing backflips. I woke up with a premium in this spot. I raise it up to 200, low jack calls, the cutoff 3 bets, 800, then the action's on the button, and this is where the hand starts getting interesting, because they throw in a call with some of the shakiest hands I have ever seen in my life, and now I actually think it's very likely this villain does have aces, not only with my live read, but also the fact it's just a great spot for them to trap with aces. They've still got me left to act, they've still got the Mr. Bluffer left to act, it's just a great spot to trap for them, so I really think it's very likely they have aces here. So when the action's on me, I just decide to call, and in all honesty, I'm kind of just set mining here. I really put my villain on aces. I throw in the call, the low jack folds, so we are 3 ways to a flop of queen, queen, 5 with 2 diamonds. The action checks it over to the button, who I still think very likely has aces, until he goes ahead and bets 600. Now I think when he uses this smaller bet size, don't get me wrong, I'm still very worried that he could have aces, but maybe the smaller size is indicative of he does have like pocket jacks, or he does have ace king, and he's trying to bet to deny equity. So ultimately, because of the small size, I do get baited into throwing in the call, but I'm going to proceed with a lot of caution going to the turn. I throw in the call, and then the 3-better folds, and we're heads up to a turn, which is the bloody king of diamonds. I'm not even joking. If the opponent have aces, we just hit him with the 2 outer. Now we really hope he has aces. I check it over to him. I think if he does have aces, he's going to rip it all in. And what do you know? The villain goes all in for 2,000 bangers. And I literally say, as I'm snap calling this bet, mate, if you have pocket aces, I just got insanely lucky. And then I see the look on his face drop. He knows what that means. His aces are no longer good. I fast roll my kings, and then the villain does show pocket aces. So what a bloody read. They've got 2 outs going to the river. The river's a 6 of diamonds. It's no good for them. We crack their aces in this almost $8,000 pot. What is going on? This is one of the most insane hands I've ever played, and one of the most insane heaters I've ever had in a 5-10 game. Happy freaking days.
Holy shit!
Hey,
Ace queen.
you're out of that pre-flop.
Ace jack too. I thought he was just fucking raising his bullshit.
I thought.
Yeah, raising my blind bet. Yeah.
Right.
We have over $15,000 in our stack right now, which I think is the largest stack I've ever had in a live cash game that I can recall anyway. But just because we're up big does not mean we're taking our foot off the pedal. Next hand has the under the gun straddle on, and I'm in the low jack with king 9 of spades. I raise it up to 60, and then I get called by a tight aggressive big blind. So we're heads up to a flop of king 8-6 with 2 hearts. What would you expect? I'm not going to hit anything less than top pair in this session. So when they check it over to me, definitely want to start building a pot. I go ahead and make it 50, and then the big blind throws in the call. So we're heads up to a turn, which is probably the worst one in the deck. It's the ace of hearts. I think the villain's going to float with a lot of ace high hands on the flop. So when they check it over to me, I'm just trying to get a showdown for as cheap as possible. I check it, and we're off to a river, which is an interesting one. It's the king of hearts. Not only do we suck out on a lot of my villain's ace-x combinations, but we do lose to any heart now. So when the villain checks it over to me, it's definitely tempting to go for a bit of thin value from those ace high hands. I mean, I can't imagine the villain floated with like ace queen on the flop and they hit top pair and they're going to fold now. It's a little bit dicey because the villain can definitely just have like pocket twos with a heart here and we lose to it, but I still think they have more of those ace-x combinations, and it's worthwhile going for like really, really thin value. So I decide to size it to 150, and the villain is in the tank a good 60 seconds or so, and I really don't know if I'm good here. Like, they could be tanking this long with like, you know, a really weak flush. They could also be tanking this long with just an ace. Then after 60 seconds, they throw in the call. I show my hand with a little bit of a look on my face like, I don't know if it's good or not, but then eventually the villain does mucks. Let's go. We get this razor thin value with our trips on the 4 flush board, and it just feels like I can do absolutely no wrong in today's session. The game was definitely winding down as people were leaving, and then I think maybe we see a little bit of the success go into my head in this final hand for the session. You'll see what I mean in a sec, but the undergun straddle is on, and the first player to act raises to 50, the small blind calls, and when I'm last to act in the big blind with ace queen, I think this is a spot we have to go ahead and 3-bet this hand. I make it 220, and then only the small blind calls. So heads up to a flop of king 5 deuce with 2 clubs. When the villain checks it over to me, we're just going to take a free turn with this one, I think. I check it, and then we do get a free turn, which is the ace of hearts. You love hidden top pair. When the villain checks it over to me, I think this is a good spot to use a large bet. I think the villain is going to have a lot of worse ace-x hands in their range, so I decide to size it to 400 bangers, and then the villain puts in the check raise to 1,125. I really hate seeing this because they do have so many ace-x combinations in their range. They have a lot of 2 pairs on this board. A set that checked on the flop and then checked on the turn because this card is good for my range, not totally impossible either. So I think this might be a really good spot to just make a disciplined fold, but I think we see a little bit of winner's tilt come into play here. Everything had been going my way. I just kind of expected it to continue, and I'm going to win this big pot. So I do throw in the call, but I really hate calling here. I think it's actually a significant punt. Whatever the case, I throw in the call, and then the river is the 7 of clubs, putting in the front door flush. The villain checks it over to me, and I still honestly think we probably are losing to 2 pairs that got worried when the flush got in. So I check it back, and what do you know? The villain has ace 5 offsuit. So as well as we had been playing this entire session, I think the winner's tilt kicked in here, and I'm glad the game broke soon after this, because clearly I'm not on my A grade anymore. So there you have it. We ended up playing a total of 11 hours and 50 minutes. Of course, when I went on this insane of a heater, I'm going to stay until the game breaks. I mean, like, I'm not just going to win this much and then hit and run people, of course. But happy to leave when I did, because obviously with that last hand, I was playing awful and a little bit tilted. But in spite of that, I do think I'm really happy with my player overall. I'm still going to land on the A grade. The last hand definitely dragging me down a bit, but otherwise I think I played very well and maximised the winnings I could get on this heater. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for. The total amount I won in this session was 9,735, which is officially my largest cash game win ever. Let's go. Very happy to see it. If you want to see my second biggest cash game win ever, I'm going to put the video up on the screen now. It was another 5-10 session, so click that. If you enjoy watching people win playing poker, that's another great one to watch. Make sure you hit subscribe and you'll get my next vlog when it comes out. We're going to be playing a bunch more 5-10 as well as a bunch of other exciting vlogs to come out, so hit subscribe and you'll get them when they come out. For now though, I'm out of here. GG Gamble Gang.